Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss about a Windows form application, how to create a Windows form application, how to add the forms, how to add the controls to that particular form. So just we will start. Just while creating any project, instead of selecting it as a console application, just to select it as a Windows form application, and here we have to mention the name of our application or name of our project. So I will create an application as a first window application. Okay, so just press OK. So it will create. We can see this is our project name or our application name, first window application, and this is the first form of your application. So this is the form. So basically in this window you can see we have different tools. First of all, we have a menu bar. This menu bar provides us various menus, and we have to perform various operations. If you want to add the controls, if you want to see something, if you want to format anything, if you want to debug, if you want to execute, you can use this menu bar. Again, you can see here is a toolbar which provides us a various shortcut keys. So that's for saving our project, to execute our project, if you want to make a undo your changes. So these are the two. This is the toolbar which provides us various shortcuts. So this is the toolbox. So toolbox gives us a various controls that we can add to our application. I'm repeating, a toolbox gives us a various controls or components that we can add to our project. So these are the various components: pointer, background worker, binding navigator, button, checkbox. These are the normal components or controls that we can add. A data grid view, again buttons, labels, text boxes, radio buttons, check boxes that we can add to our application. So all the controls or all the components that you need for your project or for your application, you can add it from a toolbox. So if your window is not showing you toolbox, just go to view menu and select toolbox. So it will open or it will show you pop up the toolbox. Again, this is our main form or the first form. Now we have another solution explorer which gives you details about your project, all the properties, all the references, all the files related with our project, all the forms that you have added to your project. You can see this list over here, and this is the work of a solution explorer. Also we can use the solution explorer to add the uh, more forms to your project, to add more classes to your project. So again, one more thing, we need a property explorer. So just go to view menu, select a property window. You can see this is the property window. Just whenever I will select any component on my windows form, so this is the form is also a component. So as I select the form, it will show you the related properties, the properties which are related with this particular form. So these are the various properties that we can add or we can set for a form. So you can change the name of the form. So if you want to discuss about the control boxes, means if you want to set the whether you want to show this control box, minimize, maximize and a close button on your application, you can set those properties from here also. So we can set the properties through code also, but it's easier to set the properties from a property window. So if you don't want to show this control box to your application or to your project, just go for a control box, search for the property with the name of control box. Here it is, and just make it as a false. So you can see directly it will remove this minimize, maximize and a close button from your application. So normally we keep it as a true. So we can see these three buttons. So if you want to make any one of from these two, as you don't want anyone from these two, or you don't want these two buttons also, just search for the property with the name of maximize and minimize box. So search for this is the property maximize box. So it will for the max, if you will make it as a, you can see suddenly there is a change here in a maximize button. So if you don't need a minimize also, just make it as a false. You can see it will automatically remove these two buttons from here. So normally we keep it as active or a true, so we need to see it. So these are the properties. Now again, if you want to set a background color for your form, you can search for a background color property, back color property. Again, if you want to set the image for your form as a background, you can set using the background image property. So these are the various properties. You can set the font color also to your form. So again, if you want to change the name over here, suppose this is your first window, you can change the name over here. Just search for the property with the name of text and change this value here from form to my first form. So suddenly you can see this change is applied here, and it's the form will indicate on its top as a first form. So this is how we can create or we can add. Now suppose if you want to add more forms to your application, you can add. So just go for a solution explorer, just right click on your project name, go to the add and search for a Windows form. So you can add a Windows form. I will add a second form. So you can see this is our second form in our project. Now it depends which form you want to execute first. Means if I will execute my project, I will run my application, it will show you a first form. It will show you a first form. Suppose if you want to your second form, whenever you will execute your project and you want to see your second form as a first form, so just to go for a program.cs, and here what is the name of a second form, just check in properties what is the name, property window, select second form, and what is the name of second form, it's a second only. So in a program.cs, here just make it as a second. Now try to execute it. So you can see it has opened the second form only. So you can set the priority, you can set the sequence to the form, which form you want to execute first. So normally whenever we create an application, the control is on form 1 only. So again we have made the change, just we will see whether it's executing. Yes, again it's opening the first form. So this is how you can create a project. Now these are the different windows that you can see. A start page, that is starting page of your application window Visual Studio. This is the program.cs, and the second .cs means this is your second form that we have added, and this is our first form that we have added to your to our project. So this is how we can create an a Windows Form application, and these are the various controls or the components that we can add to our project, and these are the properties which are applicable to each and every control or a component from this toolbox. So here, what if we want to execute, I will add one button here, just, and on that button we will set the text from here as a second. So we move, we want to move on a second form. So what I want, whenever I will click to this button, my second design form open, means my second window will be open. So I want to open that window. So if you want to set any code for any component, these are the controls or these are the components. If you want to set a code for that particular component or for that particular control, so just double click on that component or that control, it will automatically open the coding window for that particular component. So what is our task? We want to open the second form by clicking on this particular button. So just here in that click event of that particular button, create the object of that form. Consider this form a second or design form as a class. Just consider it as a class of a C sharp and create the object is equal to. This is how we create the object for any class in a C sharp, and just s dot show, call to the show method. So save it and try to execute it. So this is your first window. Just I will click on a second, so you can see this is our second window. But one more thing, whenever we are opening our first window, still we have our first window. Again I will click on a second button, so it will open a new window. Again we have now two windows for a second. So whenever I will click on a second button, this must be close the first window. So for this purpose, just whenever you are where you have added the code for a second form, so just here use the line of code as this dot hide, so it will hide the current from where you are executing your second form. Just execute it. So now you can see we have only a second form. So this is how we can link one form with another form. We can use we can manage all the forms in your application. So in this video we are going to study about 2 3 controls. So from this we have seen one more button. So I will change the text from that button as a start. So we are going to implement one more application. Just what we will do, we will use two buttons or a single button only. Okay, so we will use one button for the start. Again we will use radio buttons. So just I will add a label here to the center. I will add to the label here. So my first window application. So this is our label. So if you need to format this particular label, just search for the font property. You can change the font, you can change the font size, you can apply the different form, you can use various properties related with the font. So this is my first window application. Now if you want to change the color of that font or that label, just select it from here. So I will select it as a red, so you can see this is my first window application. So this is how you can, from this property window, you can apply a property to any control. So this is a label, and here we are today we are going to use two radio buttons. So we will study about radio buttons. So radio buttons, so I will add two radio buttons to my project. So what is our task? Our task is we are using this radio button. Just to go in a text and change the text as a factorial, and change the name of this button as a prime. So if I will select a factorial button and I will click on a start, so it will open my factorial window, and whenever I will select to the prime, it will open my prime window. So for this purpose we need to add two forms. So for this purpose we will open our solution explorer, right click on your project name. I will add a Windows form with the name of factorial, where we are going to calculate the factorial. Again Again, right click on your project name, just go to window form and add one more form with the name of prime. So we have, you can see we have added a factorial and a prime form. So go to your first form. So we need, what is our task? Whenever I will select this factorial button and I will press to start button, so it will open my factorial form. So for this purpose, just double click on the start button. So remove this code. So here set the code. If the factorial radio button used for the factorial with the name of radio button 1, radio button 1 dot checked is the property. If it is equal to true, if it is equal to true, just open the form factorial f is equal to, as we have discussed, if you want to open any form, just create an object of that form by considering it as a class and call to the show method and hide the current form using this dot hide. Else, if a radio button 2 dot checked is equal to true, if it is true, then again open a prime p is equal to new prime, again p dot show, and then this dot, so it will close the current form, sorry, this dot hide. Else MessageBox dot show select a proper option. So this is the code that we have added. Just we will see whether it will execute. So just execute your project, just check. So by default, I will, it's not, so it will show you without selecting any radio button or any option. We are just clicking on start, so it will pop up a message, select a proper option. So now I will select of factorial, so start. So yes, it has executed a factorial. So from here, if you need to go for a first form, that is our first form, so we have to add the code, we have to make application in a such a way that, so this is how we can execute. Again we will execute and check, we will check for the prime. So start it, so it's executing for the prime number also. So stop execution. Now we will design our factorial form. So on a factorial form, we are again going to use two text boxes, one for the taking a value and one for to display the result. So from one text box, we are taking a value to calculate the factorial, and in second text box we are going to display the result, like that is means a factorial of that particular number. So I will take two labels also. So this label, just right click, go to the property, and this label enter, enter number, and second number is sorry, second text box is factorial is. Okay, so we need two buttons, actually we need one button to calculate, and we will use another button also, so we'll discuss for what we are going to use it. So just change this text with the name of calculate. So, so back to first form, if you want to go again to the first form, After calculating your factorial, you want to go for your main window. So this is for we are using this button. So we are taking value from this text box and we are displaying the result in this particular text box. So whenever I will press on a calculate button, it must calculate the factorial for the value that we have entered in a text box one. So for if you want to set a code for this particular button, just double click on this button. Here it is the button click. So we will take one variable with the name of long of fact is equal to 1. Okay, one more variable will take long number is equal to integer dot parse, sorry, long dot parse. We need it as a long dot parse value from text box 1 we have to access. We are taking is a text box 1 dot text. We have converted because the value is always in the form of a string, so we need to convert that value into appropriate type. So we are taking the variables of type long, so we are parsing that value to the long. So for integer I is equal to 1, I is less than your number, less than or equals to number, and I plus plus a fact is equal to fact into I, and we need to display this value to the text box 2 dot text is equal to fact plus just attach a string. So save it, just we'll try to execute it. So we'll select factorial, start. Yes, it's opening factorial. So I will enter the number as a 5, calculate. So it's showing the factorial for a 5. So here now we cannot go, it's not possible to go to the first window. Again, you can calculate by changing the number. I will enter it as a 12. So you can see this is the factorial for a 12. So I need to go for a first form. So just for this purpose, we will add the code on a back button. So just search for the factorial design as it is. Double click on this particular. What is the name of our first form? It's form1.cs. So create the object as a form1f is equal to new form and f dot show and this dot hide. So save it, just execute it, select a factorial, start, calculate the factorial as it is. Now go to the back form. Yes, again we are here. Now select the prime. Now prime, so we have not code for a prime, so just stop the execution. Now we will design the form for a prime number. So just go to your form for a prime design. So here we are going to use one button check to check the prime number or not, and one more button as a back to first form. Okay, again we are going to accept the value. We will add a text box, one label to enter the value, and one text box to accept the value, the label to mention for what, enter number. Okay, so whenever we will enter a number into this particular text box and whenever we will click on this check button, so it will must display as a pop-up message or a message box whether that number is prime or not. So we need to code for this particular button, check button. So double click on this check button. So we will take one variable with the type integer number. We'll accept the value for this number is equal to integer dot parse and value from text box 1 dot text Okay, so one more variable will take, a count is equal to 0. So for integer I is equal to 1, I is less than or equal to your number and I plus plus. If we are using the code logic for a prime number as if number modulo I is equal to 0, if that number is divisible by any number from 1 to that up to that particular number, just make a count plus plus, increase the value of count. Now if now we are using the logic that we are dividing that number from 1 to up to that particular, suppose if we are taking number as a 5, so we are dividing 5 from 1 to 5. Now if that number is divided by 1, whenever we say a prime number, we say a prime number is a number which is divisible by only two numbers, by 1 and by itself only. So if that count is equal to 2, it's, if that count is equal to 2, then a message box dot show that number plus is a prime number. Else if count is not equal to 2, means if count is 3, means it's not a prime number. So just a message box dot show number plus is not a prime number. So I will save it, just will try to execute it. Okay, so we have checked for the factorial, just select prime. So here I will enter the first value as a 3, check 3 is a prime number. So again I will check for the 7, again a 7 is a prime number. So again I will check for the 9, sorry 9 is not a prime number. Again I will check for the 121, check it, it's not a prime number. Again I will check for the 71, check, a 71 is a prime number. So this is how. So go back to form, so we have not code for that, back to first form, just will add that code. Just again go to your prime design, here it is, double click on this particular. Now again our the first form name is form 1, f is equal to a new form, f dot show and this dot hide. So what will happen if we will not use the hide method? So it will keep that prime number form as open only. So we'll execute our project completely. Now we will see, just select a factorial, start it. So you can see this is enter number, so I will enter 10. So calculate, so this is the factorial. Then again back to the form, just select prime, start, go to the prime, it will show you prime. So I will again enter the 12, so it's not a prime number. So back to, so this is how we can implement or we can create a Windows form application which will work for a different scenario. So this is how we can create a Windows application. These are the various controls we can. Now if you want to we'll add one more button here, and if you want to stop your application by your, just by clicking on this button, so I will rename this button as a exit button. So whenever we will press on this exit button, we need if you need to close this application, just double click on this and add a code, this dot close, so it will close. So just try execute it. press on exit button, so it will stop the execution. So this is how we can create the Windows Form application. Hope you have understood all the things. So in a next video we will come with the uh, different controls in a Windows Form application.